fearless coaching. And my invitation is my ask of you is to allow us to turn up the flame. You want to play that way?
I do. It's actually when we were setting this all up and I was thinking, oh, this is perfect. We just spent this time in the context of setting up Fearless Coaching Intensive. And we were looking at it all from the idea of what it is to do fearless coaching. And then I thought like, oh, here I am. I'm going to put myself in the role of like being a fearless coachee. It's kind of the other side of it.
Yep. So let's play.
Okay.
Here's who you are for me. You're one of the most extraordinary coaches I know. You're one of the most extraordinary leaders I know. And so you play like a lion when it comes to leading and coaching. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to creating money, you play like a mouse. What's that about?
What is that about? Well, there's a tiny part of it that, you know, like I hear you say, I'm one of the, I don't know if you just said best or what the word was, but like one of the best coaches and one of the best leaders.
So isn't that interesting? You didn't even hear it.
Yeah. Like what was the word? Do you know what word you used?
I think I said best.
Okay.
Most powerful, something like that. I don't know, but it's interesting that you didn't actually hear it. There was an acknowledgement there.
Yeah. It's harder for me. I have more resistance around the coaching part than the leadership part. Yeah.
I was lucky in my early days of coaching. I lived in the Bay Area. I met some of the best coaches on the planet who were going paycheck to paycheck or were broke. And I met some people who were just really not that impressive as a coach, kind of average coaches making a lot of money. So I learned really early on that how much money you make as a coach has actually no correlation whatsoever with how good you are as a coach. Mm-hmm. The only connection is with how much money you make is how much money are you willing to ask for? Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to be able to serve people deeply, and you do have to have something powerful behind it if you want to keep that reputation going and build community and so on. But really, there's not a correlation. So again, under the context of I can turn up the flame, mm-hmm. For some reason you choose to play like a mouse around asking for money. Mm-hmm. You've got it like, I don't know, is Oliver, right? From Oliver Twist, Charles Dickens' novel. Please, can I have some more?
Yes. That's actually a sort of great analogy for that. And it really, I don't know, so I just enrolled a client last week. And there is some little piece between like, I like him. I'm excited to work with him. I'm excited about what he wants to create. So I'm kind of just like, yes, I feel good about it. And then there's something about like, okay, this is what I think I can say. And he'll say yes to it. And that's the like, please, sir, can I have some more? And those two puzzle pieces fit really well together to just keep me, you know, like, just like you said, like living paycheck to paycheck, basically.
So what is that? Let's dive into that. You've probably heard this story before, but it's around, the word escapes me now, but here's the story. Let's put it in context and see. A client of mine who she, at a young age, was raped and abused and became a very, very successful director, producer in Hollywood, came to me with a story of, you don't know how hard it is to make money as a woman in Hollywood rich. And she had stories to back it up. She had evidence. She'd been gathering evidence for years that this was true. And what the story she put on the table for me is the last time I was offered an opportunity to have money for an amazing movie, the the money guys took it away at the last minute, said, sorry, Steven Spielberg is going to come in and he's going to direct it. And everyone she told this story to said, oh my God, what can you do? Steven Spielberg, right? But I had context. I knew her story. And I knew that this movie was about rape and abuse. So I said to her, why don't you look him in the eyes and say, there's no one on the planet who should be making this movie other than me. Get me in a room with Spielberg. I should be doing this. And I know you've heard this story before. So, you know, she went quiet and then she said, I could have done that, Rich. I know Steven. She knew him on a first name basis. And so when we dug down, there were two competing commitments. That's what it was. The first competing commitment, she created this belief around life. Become successful. Because if you're successful, never again can anybody hurt you or take anything away from you. That was the belief. And it worked. She got to the highest levels in Hollywood. It's not easy for a woman. She'd really done that in a great way. Deeper than that was the competing commitment, which was that don't get too successful. If you become too successful, then they'll hurt you and take everything away from you. So each time there was an opportunity to play real big, something inside of her was protecting her, said, no, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to remind you of that whole story, even though you know it already, just to see if it stirs anything in you around, there's a reason why I want to play at that level, actually. There's a reason why I'm choosing not to ask for money. Because, you know, you've read my book, you've been in my community for long enough. All you have to do is just keep asking for a number, and at some point, if you serve enough people powerfully enough, somebody will say, yeah, yes lives in the land of no. Mm-hmm. What's going on for you that would have you take that, not want to play that game?
So I think I'm just going to kind of go stream of consciousness. Like, so if there was a reason that I didn't want to like make more money, it would be because I think people would like me less. If there was a reason I didn't want to make more money, it would be because like no one would, something around being taken care of, like no one would take care of me. Something comes up about like my mom and some idea around being judged. I have sort of a story, like a family story, that there's some like righteousness in poverty.
What might the thing be that the people in the family would say? If you made a lot of money, they would say
that I'm shallow. Like too interested in the material, like the material world, and not, there's something more about like not accessible, kind of not actually serving, like that I'm no longer actually serving because everyone should have access to this. And I don't even know if they would actually say or consciously believe like, oh, you should just give it away. But there's some feeling of like, oh, but what about all the other poor people? Or what about the people who are struggling? What about the people who can't afford, $2,000 for this, or blah, 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 like that. There's like definitely in that realm. And then this piece about the material, like I notice I have a real strong tension point in me. Like I had this proposal I wanted to make that was basically for almost a year. And I was like, okay, this is the thing I want to do. This is kind of the container around it. It's perfect. It's and like $10,000, and it's these 10 months, but then I'll just add on these other 2 because that just feels great. $10,000. And I was like, fuck, if they said yes and I got that $10,000, the first thing I would do is go have a $1,000 shopping spree at this particular store in San Francisco. And I feel, I feel kind of giddy about it, talking about it now, but I feel shy about it. Like and then when I say that, I start to feel, it's like, I feel tender about the part of me that wants that.
And what would it mean about you if these people were saying stuff about you and they heard you went on a $1,000 shopping spree after a $10,000 client? Just stream of consciousness to all the words.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that I'm shallow, and that it's, I think it's both. It's like both. It's that, so that sense of being shallow, and then something around kind of a ripoff. Like, why should someone pay you $10,000 so that you can go spend $1,000 on clothes?
Keep going. Shallow. You're shallow. You're a ripoff.
There's, just better things to do with that money. Better. Other people need it more.
Selfish.
Yes, selfish. Selfish and shallow. Selfish is a big one. Yeah, that idea of like, look just for yourself, looking out for yourself. Maybe a little bit greedy, but it's more, it kind of is like a subset of selfish.
But they might say greedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now I'm getting a picture of your world right now. No wonder you show up like Oliver Twist, just asking for a little bit more. Because if I had, let's say we bring a little child into the world, and we can, put beliefs on them, because that's what happens. We both have kids. We see them come into the world with not a single belief. And then gradually, through mummy, through daddy, through society, through culture, through media, through teachers, they take on all these beliefs about the world. If we took a little baby and we said, we're going to train this baby and put all these beliefs in, that if you make money, kid, people are going to like you less. If you make money, no one's going to take care of you. If you make more money, your mum is going to judge you, because there's a righteousness in poverty. If you make money, if you're too interested in money, you'll be shallow. And you'll no longer actually be serving. And what about all the poor people out there? And if you ever had the nerve to go and spend some of the money that you'd earned on something like a shopping spree, the things that you loved, you'd be shallow, you'd be selfish, you'd be greedy, you'd be ripping people off because other people need that money more. You selfish, shallow bastard. What would we create? What little creature would grow it? What would that grown up be like?
Yeah, I can see the grown up that is like makes just enough money to be kind of righteously self-sufficient enough, and I make too little money to be totally self-sufficient. And there's these other values around what I want to provide for my children. So like I make just enough money, and I've worked out how they're supported enough, so I feel really good about their life. But yeah, it's basically a person who doesn't, the word that came up was like luxuriate, that there's no space to feel luxury. Yeah.
I'm going to push a hot button now. Still have permission to turn up the flame?
Absolutely.
As parents, we know it doesn't matter what we say, it's who we be that creates our children. You're sending a message to your kids. So whatever you say about how they should be in the world, and you're sending the message because of who you be, that if they make money, people will like them less. That they need people to take care of them, and making more money is going to stop that. That their mom will judge them if they make money, because there's a righteousness in poverty, not through what she believes up here, but through her actions in the world. Mm-hmm. That if they make money, if they take care of themselves, if they go on a shopping spree, if, God forbid, they ever create any luxury in their life, will mean they're shallow and selfish and greedy. And what about all the poor people out there? And so play that one out. How does it feel as you imagine your kids growing up into adulthood with those beliefs?
Well, I notice I get I'm kind of like, well, I think I've tried to, they have their dads. But it is funny. I can see how Trent actually asked me one time. He was like, Mom, why don't you buy me so much stuff like my daddy does? And I was like, maybe you should ask your daddy that question. So yeah, it's I don't know quite what the word is, but it's like, I want, there's a way I want so much to just offer them that sense of like the world is their oyster. And it's not that it's safe in every facet, but basically it is good. Like the world is good and expansive for them. But I can see the way, because I do care that they care about other people, right? I can see the way that I talk to them even in that of like, well, there are some people who don't get to have as much as you have. And I guess what I'm seeing in that, like in this moment, is that I see the two as separate, that somehow I don't know that both can exist together. And, what it's like, I mean, it's just sort of crazy in one sense too. It's like, yeah, what if we were just rich? Not rich Litvin, but like rich. And it challenges me to, I mean, in a sense, what that actually challenges me more to do is to sort out like, oh, how do I hold those other values inside of that?
Now we've got a great question.
Yes.
To get into. Now there's something interesting. Oh, how could I find a way to create
yeah.
money and be of service? How could I create a way to create money and be out there really loving people and valuing people? How could I create a way to have luxury for me and still be out there making an impact? How could I create a way to bring in money and have fun? Bring money and have luxury and be selfish in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
I want to put myself first, but that doesn't mean that other people suffer. You're living in a scarcity model of the universe.
Yes. Yeah.
When my money goes up, everyone else's goes down.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I think what I'm getting in a sense is I'm living in a scarcity even more than maybe money around, like the capacity for values to live side by side or together, to be, there's something, it's like, even there's something about when you say service, that's true. And something even more that's like, how can I live in a way where my family and where I feel like our life promotes justice, even if we're, like at the same time, there's luxury and wealth.
So we'll play with that in a second.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was talking to a coaching client, a new client. We've had 2 or 3 sessions together, and she said, I think it's time I want to ask you about pausing our coaching. My health is so important to me. I don't want to build my business at the cost of my health. I already see where my health's going to be impacted. Can we have a conversation about ending our coaching and starting again a few months down the line? I said we could do, but for me as a coach, my job isn't to answer the questions that you bring. It's to help you to live into more powerful questions. I think it's a more powerful question because that one we can answer in 5 minutes. Yes, we'll pause, or no, we won't. I mean, it's 2 minutes. It sounds like, I'm looking at my notes from yesterday, you have it that if your business does well, your health will go down because that's been her experience in the past. Or if you're really, really healthy, you can't have a successful business. They're like that. Mm-hmm. I said, what if you had a new belief to live into that the better my health, the better my business. And the better my business, the better my health. And she just lit up. She was like, that's never crossed my mind. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to have an answer for it, but it's a new belief for her to live into. Right now, there's a picture of a world that you've lived into because of these beliefs that are behind you all the time, or they're like the lenses of your glasses that you're looking through. These glasses that I'm wearing right now, if I put on yours and it said, people will like you less if you make more money. I wouldn't want to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
That if I make more money, no one will take care of me. You know, if I'm selfish, I'm shallow. What we need to do is give it a new set of glasses and an awareness that when you wake up and you put on the glasses and you see that the world is green or blue, oh, I put on the blue glasses by mistake today. Let me take them off. Instead of just walking through the world thinking, oh, fuck, it's blue. It's so cold and miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wear glasses. I have prescription sunglasses. Sometimes I come in from a sunny day and I won't notice because it's still bright and it'll get dark. And Monique will come home and go, you know, you're wearing your sunglasses, right? It's like, oh, I thought it was really dark. I hadn't realized. Right? We don't notice the lens we're seeing the world through.
Yes. Yeah.
Would it be of interest to you to change the lenses through which you see the world?
Yes. Yes.
However, I know it wouldn't be of interest to you to say that and do that if it would be at the cost of justice
Mm-hmm.
or taking care of people. You have some real values around service and justice.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people who make a lot of money and it's unjust. They make a lot of money at the cost of other people.
Mm-hmm.
They have, people in our world, they have the kind of the scammy stuff that people put out there, and you know you can't get a refund if you try, even though they say you can, and it's poor quality stuff when you show up. That would be unjust. That would be ripping people off. So I know you wouldn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So justice is really key for you,
Mm-hmm.
and service. Anything else? Any other values? I'm not compromising on these ones. Like if you work with me, Rich, but compromise this value, I'd say no. We stop. Justice, service.
Mm-hmm.
Any other non-negotiables?
Authenticity.
Yep.
Which for me is about it's about my own integrity, but also that being true for whoever I work with too. That it's not, you know, it's about who are they truly? What's their yeah, I think justice, service, authenticity, and then like spaciousness. Which is, yeah, it's a good one because it's actually like the first time in my life is maybe the last 6 months or something where I'm like, oh, my work is actually kind of taking over my life. You know, I had that conversation with you back in September about that. Actually, I was like, I've never done that. I've never actually done that. And then I actually caught myself maybe 2 months later. I was like, oh, this is this flavor of what people are talking about. You know, where I'm letting go of the feeling of my life that's so important to me, you know, with the idea that I'll have more of it later, rather than just really sticking to like, no, this is the feeling that needs to exist in my life, not at all times, like all the time, but basically as a consistent.
Yeah. So we put those out there. We can't work on this piece around you making more money and creating a nice lifestyle for you and your family and things like that, if it will be at the cost of justice or service or authenticity or spaciousness. If you make more money but constrain the lifestyle you want to have, that's not negotiable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel it like, I just feel so much more open in my, like the whole front of my body is kind of like, okay, great. Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at those values and thinking, I don't use quite the same words, but I have those values very much for myself. And for myself, I found a way to have the more money I create, the more spaciousness I can have. Mm-hmm. I only coach 3 days a week. I only coach 3 weeks a month. I take at least 2 months off a year. I create a lot of spaciousness. Mm-hmm. Build my business around that. I've learned how to bring people on so they can handle stuff that I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Authenticity. I try to be as authentic as I can. And I built a business that way. I know my people are drawn to me by my authenticity. I'm human. I have moments when I'm not always fully there. You usually catch me on it. But I bring as much of that as I can. Service. I wrote a book on how to serve. Mm-hmm. Justice. Well, the more money I've made, it's helped me when I got an invitation to go to Liberia to say yes immediately and pay to fly to Liberia to train 400 teachers and build a school. Take clean water systems, filtration systems to villages who've never had clean water before. The more money we've had around justice helped us. We built 2 schools in Kenya at one of our intensives a while back. I've helped one of my clients raise $4 million for his nonprofit. Now working with Tony, building a school. I've got the bandwidth and the capacity. So I've found a way to have the more money I make, the more those values can increase in my life. Mm-hmm. How would that be?
That would be great. Yeah.
And so here's one other piece we have to handle. Your fear of being shallow and selfish and greedy.
Yeah.
It's your shadow. Bay had a horrible experience the other day. Did you hear about that? Did she tell you? Or
with her and Adam and their neighbor.
Some guy in the apartment block, yeah.
Yeah.
Called them used the most abusive language about them, tell them how terrible they were, how much he hated them. They didn't even know the guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like someone they knew they pissed off their neighbor. This was some guy who was hating on them, using the most terrible language, threatening behavior, didn't even know them.
Yeah.
It's such a great reminder. There are people out there, Kendra, who are going to love you, whatever you do. And there are some people like that guy, it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to hate you. And most of the 7 billion people on the planet are never even going to know you exist.
Yeah.
There's a place where you need to own your shallowness.
It's reminding me, actually, when I did purpose mapping with Craig, the shadow that we came up with is selfish, insecure, attention seeker. And I'm like, da 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 da. Yeah.
You'll be paid more money than you've ever been paid when you start owning that. I just want you to know before we begin working together, like at the heart of me, what's run me for most of my life is I'm a selfish, insecure attention seeker. You need to know, I'm telling you that right now. So there's nothing between us. I do my best to work on it. It doesn't, but sometimes it shows up, and I'm calling myself out because if that's not who you need, then we should work together.
Mm-hmm. That's fun, actually.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised about the clients that you can bring. I mean, there are world leaders who are selfish, insecure, and attention-seeking. Some of them do it in a pretty poor manner. You know, there's Trump out there right now, but there's others who come from that same place and are seen as people of integrity. Mm-hmm. And just that they were driven from a certain way in life. You know, me, I was driven to prove myself to my father. That was insecure and attention-seeking, and I just couldn't see it. And there were gifts in that too. I think you'll be surprised how the sooner you own that, the sooner the right clients will show up. But just the moment you own it, no one has power over you. Your fear that people will call you shallow and selfish, some people are going to do that whatever you do. Mm-hmm. It's almost like we should stop right now. Mm-hmm. In my sense, because anything else is me. I take into the material of my book. You know, go out there, make proposals, play the 90-day money game. You know, all the stuff that I teach that you know. But you know that stuff. Mm-hmm. This is a shift on a cellular level. Here's the only place that will be valued. A few years ago, I was wondering, it was with Janine actually in Liberia. I'm sitting on a bus with Janine and I'm talking to her about business. I didn't really know her, we were just chatting. And I say, I'm wondering what's next in my life. Do I take the business to a 7-figure level? I don't really want to if it's at the cost of my 3 top values, fun, freedom, and family. And she says, it sounds like you think you either make 7 figures Or you have fun, freedom, and family in your life, and those two aren't compatible.
Mm-hmm.
What if you could have a business that makes 7 figures and you could have more fun, more freedom, and more time with your family than you've ever had?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's a great question, because my belief is that we should live into more powerful questions. And that's what we want to create for you right now, is what's the powerful question that you could live into? And so let me throw something out there. What if I could have a life of luxury and create more justice, more service, more authenticity, and more spaciousness than ever before?
Mm-hmm.
And then we flip that around. What if, by being more authentic, serving even more, creating even more service and even more justice in the world, could create a life of luxury?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting on the first one, because kind of where I was going before you went into that was this idea of like, gosh, what if if it's almost like the challenge for me right now is just to own more and more the selfish, insecure attention seeker, but in a really loving, celebratory way, like, oh, that was me being insecure. And that speaks to kind of the first part that you're talking about. And then in the second one, my mind definitely does a warrant, and it wants to go right into the how, well, what do I do to do that or something. But I like just allowing both of those questions, and really asking them real questions, not oh, I already know the answer, that's not possible. But yeah. And there is something, I love that the word luxury came out in this call, because when you say that, creating a life of luxury, it really touches that part that wants to go oh, no, but at the same time, I get a big smile on my face if I imagine a life of luxury. Yeah. Thank you.
Luxury is a hard one, right? Because at the same time as you're having a massage or luxuriating in a spa or buying new clothes, we know there are people on the planet who don't have money and live in really challenging conditions. Their lives are at risk on a daily basis. We know that. So it's a hard one to get our heads around. I'm not saying I've nailed it. And there's also a place to live from, but this is a world of abundance. That simply, it takes me back to being a kid, right? You finish the food on your plate because there are kids in the world who are starving.
Right.
Both are true, but not related.
Right.
Whether I finish my peas or not, my mum or dad might know that those vegetables are good for me, but it has nothing to do with those starving kids. And we kind of grow up with that. That you have an extra massage once a week, that you go on a shopping spree once in a while, has nothing to do with what's happening to other people. And if you had more money, there may be ways for me to make more of an impact.
Mm-hmm.
You could take on pro bono clients. I was coaching a human rights activist until recently who worked at the United Nations. What an impact that's going to have. That one coaching client, the ripple effect on what she's doing in the world is huge. I can take her on as a pro bono client. I've been coaching a 19-year-old girl who makes these motivational videos seen by millions of children. You know who that is, I imagine. Mm-hmm. And it's pro bono. I don't charge her anything for that because I have the bandwidth and the space to be able to take on pro bono clients.
Mm-hmm. I had two thoughts. And one is I've always wanted to do some sort of authentic relating work in prisons, for, I don't know, since way back. And so that just strikes me as oh yeah, having the space, and the bandwidth to even think about how to do that or what that would mean. And then the other, again, is this sort of more shallow part, which is that I know at the times in my life when I have felt more like I've had more luxury in my life or more space around that I'm more inclined, I go through my closet and I'm more inclined to just donate everything to the women's shelter versus this feeling of I have to take this down to the resale shop and get money back for my nice clothes because I don't have enough money, and you can just feel there's the little rodent kind of So I can feel how that's true in my life.
And speaking to you as a mum right now, it doesn't mean when the kids say, why don't you buy me presents like daddy does? Maybe there's a view in you that actually our kids have too much stuff. And actually they don't, even if you had more money, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to buy them more stuff. Maybe you'd create more experiences for them. Or maybe you'd put money into a savings account for them when they're 21 years old.
Yeah.
Or there are things you can do with the money. It doesn't mean that you have to like go down that route of I'm going to buy you more stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that fits along with authenticity, you being you. You know
Yes.
what? We have more money now, but it doesn't mean I'm buying more stuff.
Yeah.
Everything else is just a game you're going to play afterwards. It took me 11 months of saying out loud, I charge $25,000 a year, until one person said to me, oh, great, how do I pay you? And I said, oh, you write me a check. Inside my head, I was going, what? She said yes? No one's ever said yes to me before. But by then I'd said it so many times, it was like my phone number. And it just became, oh yeah, and playing with your number is just something you get to play with. You lean into the edge around what feels comfortable. If I was going to leave you with a challenge, it would be to put a 20 grand program out there. It's $20,000 to work with you for a year. And in your mind, what might come up is, well, what could I possibly do? You have to remember the distinction. It's not about what you will do or how you deliver. Now, you said 10 earlier, and that was a stretch. Now you just doubled it to 20. How am I going to, I was told to think about what I would do for 10 grand. Now I'm going to double that? No, not the way I see it. You serve people so powerfully and you put their big dreams and their big visions out there. I want to have an amazing relationship with my partner. I want to bring such powerful and discreet communication in my organization that it would have a ripple effect on every team in our company. The bottom line would increase, that relationships would improve, that customers would be retained longer, that we get more customers. When you put them into a vision and touch with that as an impact of the work that you do, and you put a number, they just go, I'm in, or I'm not. Mm-hmm. That's what they're paying for, their vision, their dream. And they get to say it. You heard me talk about before that restaurant on the Big Island in Hawaii that has a $1,000 hamburger?
No.
It's a restaurant we go to. So it's just a restaurant on the beach, nothing special. They have a $1,000 hamburger on the menu. It comes with a bottle of champagne, but even then it's a lot of money. I asked the guys once, has anyone ever bought it? And they said, in the last 10 years, maybe 3 times. Maybe someone's on their honeymoon and they decide wouldn't this be a crazy story to tell the people back home? You can put a $1,000 hamburger on your menu.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to pause now, and the next time we talk, we should craft a menu for you, Kendra. So when people say, how much does it cost to work with you? You don't have to go, well, I don't know what they can afford. You don't sit in a restaurant and the waiter says, what would you like? And I want the chicken fried rice. And he's like, I don't know how much to say that should be today. Like my self-worth is kind of low. But I reckon you're wearing nice jeans, so maybe I could charge a bit more.
Right.
He just looks at the menu. You need a menu.
Good. I like it.
Let's just do it now. Let's just complete this piece. Let's just finish your menu. We can do it now in 2 minutes. I actually have to get on a call. Okay.
You said half an hour, and I was like, okay, I can do that. And I totally want to do it with you, but not right now.
We'll play.
Yes. Thank you for playing. You
just have to ask.
Got it.
Because I have a life of abundance where I can do this.
Yes.
Jay, I love you, Kendra.
I love you too. Ciao.